Hello and welcome to the World Class Stand podcast. This is episode 2, featuring our special guest, none other than football legend Matt Le Tissier. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment. We'll get back to you.
We'll move on now to the current game, current affairs.
Yep.
So we can kick off with a question. Who do you think is going to win the Premier League and who do you think is going to go down?
Right.
Top 4,
Who's
bottom
gonna
3.
Win? Well, no team has ever won the Premier League 4 years in a row.
Indeed, yeah.
I think they might. I think they might now. I mean, what City have done, the way that they play. If any team can win it 4 years in a row, it's going to be City. I personally don't enjoy when the same team keeps winning it over and over again. I feel like it diminishes the product a little bit.
Yeah.
I was a Spurs fan as a kid, so this is it's hard for me to say, but I think Arsenal will be the closest challengers, and I think if anybody can perhaps knock City off, then perhaps Arsenal could do it. But I find it really hard to look past Man City.
Yeah, same here. I think personally they'll win it, and they've had key injuries and they're still top of the league.
Exactly.
So
De Bruyne coming back in January. I think he's going to be back. That's like having a £200 million signing coming back into your team.
Yeah.
So that's going to be pretty tough for teams to cope with. But you never know.
And Pep seems to manage to he's got a slimmer squad now, I think, than he's had when he first went to City. But he manages to get players hitting form at different parts of the season, in different positions. De Bruyne is usually the whole season, but you get Bernardo Silva having a purple patch, Gundogan when he was there, back end, scoring goals.
Yeah.
I don't remember many other managers getting that out of their players at those different points of the season.
Yeah. I mean, Fergie was pretty good, but he had a pretty consistent squad, a pretty consistent team. He didn't really chop and change it as much as perhaps Pep did. It's a great skill. It's also kind of, as a manager, knowing and seeing in training, that's the biggest skill, is seeing in training which players are bang on it, and not just seeing it, but acting on it. Because I saw a lot of times in my time at Southampton where, I'd see players who were training really well, playing really well in training, and it comes to a Saturday and they're on the bench. And sometimes I felt like, as a manager, why would you do that? Because all you're doing is discouraging them from actually doing that again next week in training, because you're not rewarding them for what they're putting in. And I think it feels like Pep is very good at seeing those players that are in form and sticking them in the team.
Yeah.
Jeremy Doku looks a real good signing.
How fast are his feet?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
He's got that electric pace about him. Give Liverpool torrid time on the weekend. What are your thoughts on him and Pep's just seeming ability to pick people out of nowhere?
Obviously, it's quite helpful to have quite a lot of money to spend when you're in the transfer market. That helps greatly, but still, there's plenty of teams in the past that have gone into the transfer market, spent loads of money and bought duds.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the money, it is about spotting that talent. And I'm not sure there were probably that many people who, unless you proper connoisseurs, who had probably heard of Jeremy Doku before this season.
Really.
And all of a sudden he's like, geez, where's he come from? So you've got to have an eye for the talent, and an eye to know that player's going to fit in to the system that he wants. That was the biggest thing. That's why it was a bit of a surprise to me when he bought Jack Grealish, because I thought he's done really, not really the player kind of would the way that he was playing at Villa wouldn't really suit what Pep preaches at Man City, and that's why I was like, why has he bought him? And then you see he's actually kind of coached him differently and he plays differently.
Yeah.
He's not as free as what he was at Aston Villa.
He stays out wide rather than coming into the centre of the park.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, he's been slotted into a position.
Yeah, he plays it safe a lot more than he used to. Yeah. He was a bit more extravagant with his dribbling at Villa, because he was the main man and he was the one that was charged with creating and trying to score the goals at Villa. At City, there's not that much pressure on him to do that because you've got so much other talent in the team, so he's just got to play to the system.
Do you think Haaland will break the 40 goal barrier this year? He's not even got going, and he's 13 and 12, I think.
Yeah, he's
doesn't
a
even
machine.
look like he's
an absolute machine. At some point, if he doesn't do it this season, I think at some point he'll do 40 goals in the season.
Yeah,
I really do. Which I never really thought I would probably see it in this era, to be honest. I mean, we've seen kind of Shearer got into the 30s, I think, with a real purple patch of a season. But to average over a goal a game over the course of a whole Premier League season would be just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen Messi do it and Ronaldo do it in Spain.
Yeah.
But nobody's really done it in this country. It's labelled as one of the most difficult countries to score goals in because we've got pretty good defenders in this country. So if he could do that, that would be a hell of an achievement. Yeah, and I think he will.
Who else do you think will make up the top four then? Manchester City to clinch it. Arsenal maybe.
Yeah, I think Liverpool will be in there in the third spot. I think they look like they've kind of regrouped a bit after last season. And I think the fourth place spot is going to be the most interesting one. I think that fourth and fifth, because I think fifth's going to get Champions League as well this year, isn't it?
I think so.
I think there's so I think that battle is probably going to be come the end of the season. I think that will be the one that a lot of people's eyes will be on because you've got teams like Villa and Newcastle there. Man United will hope to be in the mix. Spurs will be hoping to be in that mix. I think Chelsea have already kind of, with the start that they've had, already kind of blown out a little bit for this season anyway. I think they will come good eventually, but I don't think they'll do it this season. So I think for the fourth place spot, I think I'm going to go with Newcastle. Yeah, I think they were robbed last night for a start.
Unreal.
Jeez.
What are your thoughts on that penalty?
My goodness.
We'll get into that
Honestly,
concept.
the VAR.
Yeah, we've got a whole section on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will. I look forward to that. But yeah, I think I'd go for Newcastle. And at the bottom end, I really don't see that any of the three teams that came up are going to stay up.
Mm-hmm.
I find the teams that come up now are poorer than what they used to be when they came up.
I feel that way. I feel that way a little bit. And I think, Forest did well to, obviously they spent a lot of money and bought in a lot of players and managed to keep themselves up. And that's the thing, when you've come up, it's almost like you really have to throw the kitchen sink in it to try and stay up. And I'm not really sure that any of those three teams that came up really did enough to actually give themselves the best chance to stay in the league. So from what I've seen so far, I mean, it would be lovely if they could do. Everyone loves an underdog story, and Luton staying up would be a pretty special achievement for them. But yeah, I think from what I've seen so far this season, it wouldn't surprise me if the three that came up went back down.
Yeah, Burnley have been disappointing, really. They stormed the Championship towards the end, and they've absolutely fallen flat.
Yeah, and I think that's why so many people now look at it and go, is the gulf between the Premier League and the Championship getting wider and wider? And when you see what they did last year, and how they've started this year, it's kind of, you just have to say, well, maybe it is, because that last season, I mean, they just blew that league away, and yet struggling to win a football match.
Yeah, they blew it last week as well against West Ham.
Up against West Ham, 10 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Do you think them spending £20 million on, I think it's James Trafford from Manchester City, on an untested young goalkeeper? Bit of a strange sign in there.
Yeah, I would say so. I think when you're coming into, so I think Southampton did a slightly similar thing when they bought Bazunu and stuck him in goal. Young kid in the Premier League for his first season. I thought he struggled a little bit, to be honest, and was one of the reasons why we went down. And yeah, I think when you're coming up from that Championship, I think a little bit more experience is probably better needed certainly in that position.
Goalkeepers tend to.
That's a hell of a lot of responsibility to put in a young kid.
Mm-hmm. They tend to peak around 27.
Absolutely.
Going up and to their 40s now with all the sports science and nutrition. You see, there was a few free agents that maybe they could have looked at instead of going for such a young guy in goals. But he's got a bright future ahead of him, but maybe it's come a bit too soon, his Premier League opportunity.
Yeah.
David De Gea is available.
Not sure he'd get him to Burnley. So in the current generation at the minute, what are the players that you think, not maybe world class now, but they have the potential maybe to get there out of the current young crop of players that play in the Premier League?
I've always thought Phil Foden had that in him. He's got that ability to be able to do that. So he would be one that immediately springs to mind. I think Doku has from what we've seen so far this season. If he can replicate that over a long period of time, then there's every chance that he could be considered in that mould eventually. But it's an interesting one with wingers. It's really difficult. When you look back at history to actually pick out, flying wingers with loads of pace and loads of trickery. There's not that many who have done it over like long periods of time. Giggsy was probably one that kind of springs to mind who did it over a long time, but they eventually even moved into centre mid. So it will be interesting to see kind of how he develops. He's not playing the Premier League, but Jude Bellingham is another one that kind of immediately springs to mind as to.
Amazing.
I mean, I watched him a few weeks back. I went to the England-Italy game at Wembley and watched him live for the first time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have been more impressed.
Yeah.
Really, I was like, wow. I knew this. He's had a lot of accolades already. He's had a great start with Real Madrid, and I was really looking forward. So I kind of watched him a lot. The game was going on around, but kind of focused my attention on him, and I was like, that boy's got everything.
I think a lot of people were laughing when Birmingham retired his shirt.
Yeah,
after he left there, thinking, really?
Yeah.
19-year-old lad, but he's gone on to do great things at Dortmund, and now to go to Real Madrid and take the number 5 shirt.
Exactly.
I mean, that shows you the confidence the young man has. And
then has he not just broken one of Cristiano Ronaldo's records at Real Madrid for goals scored at the opening of a season, or the first 15 games or something?
Yeah,
I mean,
he's unreal.
That is unreal.
He is. He's off the charts.
Yeah.
England, as you say, watching the England performance, but they've got some side at the moment. England, I think they could go on and maybe win a big one with this squad.
I think there's enough ability in the squad for them to go and win something. I think, for me, I think the only thing that holds them back is the manager, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think we've got the players. I think we need a bolder manager.
Yeah,
I think he's a bit too cautious, a little bit too safe.
For the group stages or a knockout competition in the group, it's good to play safe maybe. Then, like you said, you've got to let the reins free then in the knockouts.
Yeah,
He'll
and I
get you
think
so far, won't he? And I think to win it, I know final missed a penalty, can't legislate for that, although picking that particular player to take the penalty, I'm not sure. But I don't feel he's got that moment of...
I think tactically, he's a little bit behind a lot of the other coaches.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got that boldness to make a change in a game at a crucial time. I think he's a little bit too safety conscious. I think there's been 2 times where, obviously, the semi-final against Croatia where we went 1-0 up, and then the final against Italy in the Euros where we went early 1-0 up.
Yeah,
and
Luke
then
Shaw.
kind of almost looked like we sat back.
Come on to us. Yeah.
And just invited pressure and try to hang on to a 1-0 win, but you scored in the 3rd minute. You can't. Nobody does that. We're not good enough defensively, because that's probably our weakest part of our team. I think defensively, I think there are little frailties there.
Yeah, I feel like defence is the more ageing part of the team. Kyle Walker's obviously still playing, but he's 33, is he? 34?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Luke Shaw's not getting any younger, injured quite a lot. What are your thoughts on the world-class potential of the likes of Saka, Grealish? Do you think they've got the potential to tip that balance and get that accolade?
I think Saka, perhaps.
Okay.
I think with Jack, I think what will hold him back a little bit is actually playing in that Man City team. Because I think he's got more to offer.
Yeah.
But he's not really allowed to show it. I think there's a lot of times where you see him where at Villa he'd be driving at people and trying to take him on. Whereas in that City team, it's almost like, no, if I'm in this position, I've got to either pass it that way or that way until I get like right deep into that final third, and then I can have a little bit of a dribble. Whereas at Villa, you saw him in the halfway line, dropping the shoulder, going past people, and he's not encouraged to do that at City. So I think that will probably hold him back a little bit. So I think perhaps Saka has a little bit more freedom in his game than perhaps Grealish does.
Yeah, the flair's really been kind of coached out of him now, so he's part of
it feels that way a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it feels that way a little bit.
Off the cuff play that you would, to your point.
Do you think the Premier League now is more competitive than the Premier League when you played? Any particular specific element of it?
Do you know, I feel like it was a bit more competitive in the 90s.
Okay.
And I say that because I felt like it didn't matter if the team that was first in the league was playing the team that was bottom. You still felt like there was a reasonable chance that the team at the bottom might create. I mean, we were in that position a few times where we were kind of in the bottom three, but we would still beat the big boys, you know, especially at home. I don't always get that same feeling now.
Yeah, the point you touched on there, I think stadiums now play a part of that. You don't get, Upton Park's not here anymore, the Dell, Highbury. Yeah. There's not that. Everton's still there, I guess, but that kind of intense atmosphere.
Yeah, and that definitely helped. Especially we didn't have as good a team as those ones, but we always felt like we had a chance at home.
Yeah,
it didn't matter who we were playing, and I don't always get the same feeling with the teams down at the bottom these days. I think at the top end, it's probably a similar amount of teams that you feel like at the start of the season could win the league.
Okay.
So you've got 2 or 3 who you would say got a chance. There's always there was Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea back in those days. Obviously City, Liverpool, Arsenal, perhaps you could say in this era. Newcastle will try and break into that. Man United, I think, got a long way to go, but it's kind of a similar amount of teams at the start of the season where you go, yeah, maybe.
Do you think the style of players changed dramatically?
I think it has.
Now it is more set up for the counter attack. Also, used to hear the term midfield battle back in the 90s, and it was a good watch.
It's not that sort of football anymore, is it?
No.
It's a lot of it is very much now possession based, and a lot of it's pointless football, if I'm honest.
Yep.
It's possession for possession's
Game
sake.
chess.
I think a lot of it is, and it's almost like we just want to kind of keep the ball off the opposition for a while, and and hope that we can pull them out of position a little bit. And if we keep the ball off them for long enough, maybe when they get the ball, they forget what they should be doing with it. It kind of feels a little bit like that.
It's looking for a lack of concentration, isn't it? Almost
it is.
Now, rather than a moment of brilliance.
Yeah, it definitely is. So I think it's definitely changed in terms of the amount of managers that want to play the ball on the deck, that want to play total football.
Yeah.
Because obviously there was probably majority of teams had it in our day. The majority of teams had a big centre forward, and there would be. I mean, I can count on one hand now when I watch a game of football how many times a centre back would go and try and drill it into the centre forward's head. But that was like stock pass back in the day. It was like stick Ian Dowie up there, put it in the mixer, and then we'll try and get the bits and pieces after that. Having said that, I think there's actually a time and a place for that kind of football. I mean, it's not, you don't want to see it 90 minutes.
Tuesday night for us, boys. That sounds like
But I just feel like, and I get frustrated actually watching football sometimes now, because I'll see a team, and it happens to my team, and we can be 1-0 down, like 5-10 minutes to go, and they're still passing it around at the back and like doing 24 passes before they actually get into the final third. And you're like, boys, you're 1-0 down.
Yeah.
There's like 7 minutes to go. Come on,
Get it in there.
Try and exert some pressure somehow. Obviously you've gone 83 minutes and you haven't been able to break them down. Try something a little bit different.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think I got the perfect game as an example is that Barcelona. Obviously, we know that great side, pinging around Messi, Iniesta, Xavi. They played Bayern Munich in semi-final of the Champions League. They scored 6 headers, put the ball in. They beat them 8. I think it was 8-0, maybe 9-0 on aggregate. I think it's a perfect example. It's a time and a place.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's probably only been 2 Premier League teams in recent memory: Neil Warnock's Cardiff City and Sean Dyche's Burnley. That kind of play that Route 1 football, bypass the midfield and get the wingers to cross balls into the box. But both went down. So I suppose it's one of those things where that kind of style of play is kind of aging out in some respects.
Yeah.
But I get you can't constantly rely on the pass if you're still losing. So to just switch it up a bit.
Yeah, that's the only bit that frustrates. I love watching teams pass out from the back and take a bit of a risk. I like watching it when I'm a neutral.
Yeah. Not making a
Watching
mistake.
my own team do it and then give away a goal is like, what are you doing? But from the football purist in me, I do like watching teams when they want to pass out from the back and then go through the lines and everything. It's good to watch. It is. Yeah. It's just when it's your own team, it's like the old ticket goes a little bit. Whoa, get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, we talked about VAR a little bit earlier, but obviously last night, Newcastle Champions League, 8 minutes of extra time. That's a bit more controversial as well, stretching players to their limits. And then, unfortunately, Newcastle goes and gives away a penalty after the ball hits the player's chest, bounced off onto the elbow. Seemed very, very harsh.
Really harsh. Really harsh.
As soon as you see him get sent over to the monitor, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be a penalty. Yeah, what are your thoughts on VAR and is it being overused?
Well, originally when it was first mooted, I thought, oh, that's a really good idea. I thought it was going to make the game fairer for everybody. Mm-hmm. That was kind of why I was in favour of it, because I always felt like I was playing at one of the smaller teams in the Premier League, and we never used to get the big decisions. We never used to get penalties at Old Trafford when we should have done. We didn't get penalties at Anfield when we should have done. And I just felt like, okay, if the referee's going to get a chance to see this over again, this is going to start evening things out a little bit in terms of, not referees not favouring the bigger teams. And make no two bones about it, they did. But it's human nature. You're refereeing at Old Trafford and you've got 60,000 people screaming at you to give a penalty, and there's like 2,000 in the corner. Who are you going to give the free kick to?
Yeah,
nobody wants to be hated by 60,000 people and Fergie on the sideline having a go at you.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that the referees are all bad, but there was definitely an influence there, and I felt like the VAR could just negate that a little bit by being able to look at incidents again. However, I did when it first came out, before it even started, I mooted the idea that two things. One, that I thought there should be an ex-player in the room with them to not to make the decisions, but for advice to lean on in certain situations where the player will kind of have a better idea of what's gone on than the referee might, who hasn't been in that situation.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing, and I always felt like right from the start, the group of referees that are in the VAR room should not be connected to the referees that are on the pitch.
Right.
So I think there's conflicts of interest going on. If you've got a guy out on the pitch and his mate is in the VAR room, his mate ain't going to want to make him look a fool out on the pitch.
Yeah.
So he's going to do everything he can to help him out and not make him look bad.
Yeah.
And that's a conflict of interest, because he should be completely removed from that. He should be looking at the incidents and not having that conflict of interest in his head going, oh, if I make this decision, that's going to make him look really bad.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like that group of referees in the VAR should have been from a load of retired refs who weren't connected to the current bunch that are out on the field.
Yeah.
And then that would take away that little conflict of interest.
Definitely.
So that was kind of the two things that I thought should have happened at the start. As time goes on now, more and more people are actually making those arguments.
It's great points you made there, especially with having an ex-pro. I feel, even as a fan, never played football professionally, but I think you can see sometimes if you had an ex-pro in there, especially in penalty scenarios, when you know whether someone has really gone in for a dive or kind of, has he stuck his leg in the path of other players' movement. And a pro should be able to spot those things more, maybe give a bit more advice on that. Yeah, I think that would be a really good move to have an ex-pro in there to kind of say, hang on a minute, he's bought that one, or, no, that was a clean contact. So, yeah, and I'm sure there's other things as well which players do on the pitch which kind of help win their team free kicks and penalties especially.
Definitely.
I think VAR should be used for lines only, either offsides. There's an improvement in the game with goal line technology. Did the ball cross the line? Yes or no?
Yeah.
That's the biggest. The biggest thing in the game. That's the biggest value of anything.
Yeah.
Was it a goal? Yes or no? They're 100% improved, and then they've gone over the top with paying a referee to ref a game and then taking the decision
Out of
his hands. So you might as well not be there.
And not for the premise that VAR was brought in, which was clear and obvious.
Yeah.
Which a lot of these things are. And I find as well, some of the, especially offsides, when they give you that image drawing the lines, a lot of the camera views are on the angle to the line of the offside.
Yeah.
Surely they must have a view straight down, gun barrel straight, and because you can make it look a little bit dubious, can't you?
Depends on how many cameras that they've got set up down the side of the pitch as to whether or not you can. You know, if you want an exact straight line, you're going to have a camera like every foot down the pitch,
or something along a run or across the top of the stand,
rail,
or something.
Yeah, it could be on a rail. Yeah.
Maybe that's my head just going a bit down the rabbit hole, but
I mean,
anything to improve it though. There's got to be something.
It is an interesting concept because I keep hearing the argument that people are saying, oh, you know, if it's offside, if there's it should be on like the end of their toe, just on the end of their toe, and not all the other bits of your body, just their boot. But that kind of wouldn't work.
No.
You know, and then you've got other people who go, well, if there's daylight in between,
even worse.
We're like, well, that doesn't really change anything because there's still going to be decisions where you're going to go, well, he's only this much offside. Shouldn't really be offside. Well, where are you going to draw the line then? Where do you want that line? There has to be a line at some point. It doesn't matter where you draw it. There's always going to be controversy because there's always going to be instances where it's going to be like that close to not being offside. So I'm not quite sure how best we go about the offside one.
I feel like the daylight issue, which wouldn't surprise me, it does come into the game. I think it was mentioned a few years ago. It's Arsene Wenger's sort of theory around it. I just think you're adding in another variable of what is daylight. It's another subjective matter adding into an already complex issue. Yeah. And it won't help, I don't think.
Definitely. We mentioned about offside. One of the glaring ones was the Liverpool versus Tottenham game with Diaz. And I think everyone saw that he was onside first time round, but for somehow they had they had a good look at it and they still made the wrong decision.
Well, they didn't think that they'd made the wrong decision. So the confusion was because they thought that the on-field decision was the goal had been given.
Yeah. And
not that the goal had been disallowed, which is why they went check complete.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
thinking
came in a conflict of interest.
Thinking that it was a goal. Now, so at that point, this is where I think I remember. I think Merce was having the argument on Soccer Saturday with Mike Dean. At that point, when the play had restarted, and they realised that they'd messed up.
Yeah.
At that point, somebody should have had big enough balls to be in that room and go, ref, stop the play. Just stop. Just blow your whistle. Yeah. Just blow your whistle because we've messed up.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand that they've got protocols in place and everything, but the fact that they didn't do that caused more of a controversy than it would have done had they gone, stop, we've made a wrong decision, it is a goal.
Yeah.
Now, that would have caused some controversy because obviously Spurs would not have been happy because they'll go, well, there's protocols, you're not allowed to do that, blah, blah, blah. But the right result was reached in the end.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they've caused a controversy and came out with the wrong result at the end of it, with the incorrect decision. So if they'd have done the other thing, they would have caused controversy, yes.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, you've come out with the correct decision.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's why somebody should have had the balls to go, it's against the protocols, but it's the right thing to do. Stop the play.
Well, I think you mentioned that earlier with the conflict of interest from the person in the room. He didn't want to make the on-field ref look silly there, did he? And that's all it boiled down to.
Yeah. I think more transparency is needed as well.
Yeah.
You see it in the rugby.
Yeah.
It's up on the screen. The referees are mic'd. I think that would, there's, if you tell they was communicating, oh no, we've made an error here. If they was live and they was mic'd or everything, they wouldn't be as so open about, let's quickly move the game along.
Yeah.
And they've kind of sacrificed sport and integrity over,
yes,
actually coming to the right decision and awarding the goal. So
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I don't know if you watch cricket, but cricket have a review system where you get so
I do
many.
watch cricket, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that could be a good thing maybe to bring in for those kind of subjective.
So to give the
Maybe-
team captain a
Yeah.
couple of
Maybe one
options
each
to.
half or something like that. Only on the subjective stuff. I think the goal line,
Yep.
is the ball in, is the ball out, is it over the line, is it not? Fine, it's objective. Anything subjective, let's get a review system
Yeah.
and try that. But
Well, I think that's something that will probably get trialled in the upcoming seasons. I think. I think that's when you've seen it work so well in cricket, and it also, it brings another layer of interest into the game for the captains to go, oh, right, I've only got one review left.
yeah,
Am I going to use it for this?
yeah, drama as well.
It is drama, yeah.
You love drama.
I think that would actually,
add to the entertainment.
I think it might do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking of drama, is there a big one, hot topic, financial fair play in football?
Yes.
Do you think Everton have been hard done by? And do you think the similar sanctions might come in for the big boys, Man City and Chelsea? What are your thoughts?
Right. So first of all, obviously not knowing the exact details of all the charges, first of all, so it's difficult to actually make an informed opinion on it. But from the outside looking in, it feels like to me, yes, Everton have messed up. They've broken some rules. And the Premier League have gone, right, you've broken the rules, we're going to give you 10-point deduction. Right. So what I feel like has happened is that Everton perhaps don't have the same financial clout that a Man City or a Chelsea do. Now, Man City and Chelsea could string out all that they're going through the legal system, through lawyers and arguments. They could string that out for years and years and run up millions and hundreds of millions of pounds worth of lawyers' fees. But the Premier League would have to do the same. And the Premier League would go bust before Man City or Chelsea would go bust.
Yeah.
Good point.
That for me is how it looks. And it feels like Man City are going, well, we'll just string this out a little bit. How much money do you want to spend on taking this? Because we've got a bottomless pit.
Yeah.
And we're prepared to go all the way. And it's a really difficult situation. I think the Premier League have looked at Everton and gone, well, they can't do that to us. We can punish them and we can make an example, set an example to them. I also think it's probably a little bit to do with the perhaps a regulator coming into football, which they don't really want. And that's a way of them going, well, we don't need a regulator. Look, we're being really tough on our team.
Yeah.
We've just stopped them 10 points. We don't need a regulator. I don't know. That's just the cynic in me.
I think that's well founded. Actually.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it
exactly
that way.
what's
But
going
yeah,
on.
Yeah, so
Good
they
point.
want the power in their control as much as possible. They don't want to relinquish it to any external companies or regulators. So I totally agree with that take on it. Saudi Pro League, Steve.
Yeah. See, lots of players have moved over, haven't they, to the Saudi Pro League? It's massive names. Ronaldo started it again. He was made fun of, I think, wasn't he, when he went over there? The guy, I think, just knows what he's doing. But what's your thoughts on the Saudi League? I think a little part of me thinks it may overtake the Premier League in years to come. I don't know why. I just think the finance, the TV stuff that's coming out of it. Do you think, I suppose, initially there is a threat to the Premier League with the Saudi Pro League?
I think the Premier League probably looking at it as a bit of a threat. How realistic is that threat? I kind of look back at what China tried to do a few years ago.
Yeah.
And they shed loads of money at players. We had a lad up front for Southampton, Graziano Pella, who moved out to China, and I think he became like the second highest player in the world. He went from playing for Southampton to being the second highest player in the world. And then after a few years, it kind of all kind of dried up a little bit and went. And I feel like I feel like it might kind of do the same thing.
Okay.
I only say that because of the lack of how difficult it is to kind of get a foothold when you're going against leagues that have been in the making for like over a century. It's the historical thing when it comes to, the La Liga and the Premier League and all that stuff. I think that's a big thing to try and overcome with money. So I don't see it in the near future. I think it would take a long time for the Saudi League to try and usurp the Premier League in terms of popularity across the world.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm not saying it will never happen, but I don't see it happening in the next decade, put it that way.
Yeah, I just feel good things come to an end, right, don't they? So I feel the Premier League surely can't have that dominance for eternity. I don't know if it was the Saudi League, it wasn't the China League, but the Ronaldo factor is massive. But would the Saudi League, when you were playing, something like that, would that have interested you?
It probably wouldn't have done right up until the point where I was due to retire. and then gone, fancy another year and I'll give you £500,000 a week.
Yeah.
All right then, I'll do one more year.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I probably wouldn't have, while I was kind of still fairly competitive, I probably wouldn't have done.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think if they offered us £100 a week to do the podcast, then we are on the plane. I think there's a different threat from the Saudi Pro League is not so much popularity taking over. I think it comes to mid-table teams. We've already seen teams like Wolves. What would you rather? Would you rather play 40 grand a week playing for Wolves in a mid-table team, or a Saudi team come over and offer to pay you £300,000 a week? I think that's where the Premier League as a whole will struggle. Is players will come over and they'll say have a few seasons in the Premier League and think, actually, I do fancy earning a few quid in the Saudi Pro League. Yeah. Getting the money whilst it's there. We don't know how long it's going to last. You mentioned China. Yeah. Money coming in and then it disappearing as quick as it came, pretty much. And also the attendances over there, right? They're less than the National League over here. You don't have that rabid fan base that we have over here, and the traditions. Your father, your grandfather going to the game. It's kind of just a millionaires play thing at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that makes me think it would take a long time for it to use it, because I think the players, yes, the money is great and everything, but there are still a lot of players who get the buzz out of playing in front of a full stadium. They're playing to sparsely populated stadiums over there, and it's not the same. You don't get the same buzz when a goal goes in and like 4 people behind the goal start cheering. It's not. It ain't the same. Trust me. And I think that's why I feel like if they did, want to take over, it's have to be a long-term thing, and I think they would have to work really hard on kind of getting the crowd attendances way bigger than they are at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
No, like you said, I did see a short clip of Jordan Henderson playing over there, and the attendance was like 953 people. I thought, what are you doing, son? But he's got the money in the bank, hasn't he?
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I don't fault any of the players that go over there.
No,
it's generational wealth, isn't it? You've got to take the money, and there's a bit of stick for it, but
people have to make their own decisions, and I think people are very quick to judge others, and I think sometimes that comes from a place of jealousy as well, that they haven't been given that opportunity to have those rewards. The same thing happened in the golf with the live golf and all that stuff. Who wouldn't do that? It's just life-changing money for generations of your family. It's really difficult. It takes a lot of morals to go, well, actually, I don't like their human rights record, I'm not taking that money.
Definitely. There's been quite a few people coming out and slating Jordan Henderson in particular for his is kind of a decision to go over there. But if you're offered life-changing money, then there's not a lot really you can do about it.
No, absolutely. I mean, you look at those countries and everyone goes, well, their human rights record's not very good. Well, I think sometimes you've got to look a bit closer to home as well, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes our governments don't behave too well either.
Yeah.
I think we're moving into a quickfire Q&A now, 10 questions.
Oh,
yeah. Lighten the moods a bit.
Yeah,
Lighten the mood, yeah.
we'll lift the atmosphere hopefully a little bit.
Excellent.
So, first question, straight up, are you a roast dinner guy or are you a fry-up kind of person?
Oh, what a choice that is. Two of my favourite things in the world.
Oh, okay.
You can have them both.
I asked you the meat as well.
Oh.
What type of meat?
I'd probably go roast,
Yeah?
just over a fry up.
And what type of roast? What meat?
I don't really have one favourite. I mean, if I could have a trio, I'm going for beef, gammon, and chicken.
A bit of a Toby Carvery type.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll have a little slice of each of those three.
You're
Thank you very
him
much.
choose between breakfast and roast. Now you're going to make him choose the meat. Oh, yeah. But this is a cheeky one. Would you rather have Phil Thompson's nose or have to wear Charlie Nicholas's earrings?
Ooh, I've pretty got similar size one to Tomo's nose already, so it doesn't really matter about that. Yeah, I'm not really an earring where I'll take Tomo's nose.
You mentioned two other sports with us today.
Yeah.
Golf or cricket?
Oh.
I knew that was going to be a tough one for you.
Do you know what? If you'd have asked a teenage Matt Le Tissier, that would have been cricket all day long, and probably up until I was about 28 when it changed, and I went golf over cricket.
Golf.
Yeah,
Okay.
for the second half of my life so far.
You're a pretty handy cricketer as well,
I
I
was
think.
decent at
I wanna
cricket.
say,
Yeah, if I wouldn't have made it as a footballer, that was my next try as a job. Would have
Yeah.
been a cricketer. Yeah, I was
Against-
quite a good batsman, and I kept wicket as well. I could bowl, but I wasn't a great bowler. But I used to keep wicket and open the batting.
They've been you and the Neville brothers in the England team,
Yeah,
cricket
yeah.
team. You never know. So, a football-related question. What manager in today's game would you like or love to play under that would get the best out of you?
I'd probably go for Klopp, I think,
Okay.
or Postecoglou. Actually, I think he's been pretty good at Spurs so far. So one of those two, I think. Yeah, I think Klopp has he seems to have that real bond with his players, and they seem to kind of want to run through a brick wall for him. Yeah. So one of those two.
Okay.
You mentioned Jimmy Case, was it earlier?
I
used
did.
to play alongside, looked after you in the midfield.
Yeah.
Which of the current midfielders would you like to play alongside with in the midfield to maybe balance your style of play?
I don't know if there's that many hard men around anymore. There's not many Jimmy Cases around. I mean, there's a midfielder who I would love to have played alongside. Would have been Kevin De Bruyne.
Okay, yeah.
Oh wow! I can
Yeah.
imagine the assists on that.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty special to play alongside him.
Yeah.
And I really like Martin Odegaard actually.
Yeah.
Odegaard's really coming of age
He is.
in that Arsenal team.
He's got potential world class in him, I think. He's going real
Yeah.
close for me.
Personally, I'd like to see you play with N'Golo Kante. I think he's.
Oh, I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
It would make up
Doing
for
the
my
running.
lack of work rate.
wasn't that?
There's a great balance there. I see what you're saying.
He gets around the pitch, doesn't he? I think that'd be perfect compliment to your game.
Yeah, and he's taking the money and I didn't.
I'll go with another current one. What's the score tonight then? Saints and Bristol City.
Oh, I'm going 2-0 Saints.
2-0, okay.
Cool. Scorers?
Well, Adam Armstrong's normally on the score
Yeah.
sheet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Get the scorecast on then.
We'll go for a double Armstrong.
Yeah,
Stuart, and,
brace.
Stuart and Adam.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I like Stuart. He's a good player.
So this is a pundit question.
Okay.
So as a pundit,
Yep.
Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher?
Oof.
I thought it'd be a good question.
Devil in the seat there.
Yeah, I mean, Gary. I would say Gary.
Okay.
Jamie's not my favourite person in the world.
Okay.
I upset him apparently.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't like it. He rang me up last summer. He had the right arm. It was quite funny. I found it quite funny. He was a bit upset because I'm talking about when I got sacked at Sky, and I asked him if it was anything to do with my social media posts when they sacked me, because they didn't say specifically that it was. And their answer was, "Oh well, we do have to take into consideration the reputation of our company. and my answer was, you didn't seem too bothered about your reputation of the company when you re-employed Jamie Carragher after he spat at that young girl, right?
Yeah,
And,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So apparently that wasn't very good, and Jamie got a bit upset that I brought that up again. And he rang me up. He got my number off Phil Thompson. He rang me up, and I was in London with my family. I was just still outside a shop. My missus was in the shop doing some shopping, and I got his phone number. I was like, I don't recognise that. Hello, yeah, Tiss, it's Cara. And I went, all right, how you doing? He went, not happy with you. He went, bang out of order, bringing out that, spitting at the girl and all that on their podcast that I listened to. And I went, I'm bang out of order. I went, do you not think you brought that on yourself a little bit, Jamie, when you spat at the little girl? Because that was probably the biggest bit about all this, is that you actually did do that. Yeah, but you shouldn't be bringing it up again. I was like, well, I was asked a question, and this is what happened. I just told the truth. So if you're not happy with that, that's not really my problem. You're the one who did what you did, and you have to live with the consequences of that every day for the rest of your life because you did it. And he started having a go again. I'm going to be trolling your social media. I'm going to be jumping on everything that you say on social media. I was like, Jamie, I'm 54. I don't really care about you or your opinion. And if you want to jump on me on social media, you go right ahead, because what happens on there isn't real life anyway. I said, for a start. So you carry on. I said, but I'm fine about all that. And he was like, and he started going off into like, yeah, and that stuff that you said about Ukraine. I was like, what about it? And I was like, okay, whatever, Jamie, it's fine. And literally, I'm walking down the street in London. We've got him on loudspeaker. My missus is walking along next to me. She come out of the shop, and I put the phone down, and she went, who's that? I went, that was Jamie Carragher. And then she went, was he arguing with you? I went, yeah. She went, you're so annoying. And I went, what do you mean I'm so annoying? She went, you're so annoying to try and argue with. I said, you don't get upset at all. You're just really calm. And she said, I hate it. And I went, that's not really the kind of the point. I said, he's having a
Give me a break.
There you go. So yeah, that's why I choose Gary over Jamie.
And has he trolled you? Have you noticed?
I don't know. I think I might have blocked him.
Okay. Exclusive.
Even like, I might have muted him.
Yeah, I think, my other question was going to be favourite goal at an away ground, but I think your goal against Tim Flowers was away. Was that right? It
was away, yeah. That was one of two, actually, in my career where, and I scored one at Liverpool in front of the Kop, and it was only twice, really, where the away fans actually gave me a proper round of applause.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty special feeling.
What was your favourite away ground to play at?
So I would say it was probably Anfield.
Anfield.
Yeah, I mean, growing up as a kid in the 70s, not seeing a lot of football on the telly, but what you did see was a lot of them European nights at Anfield,
right,
when they were winning European Cups, and amazing atmosphere, and the crowd singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." All the scarves go up on the Kop just before you kick off. It was like proper hair on the back of your neck standing up moments. So that was pretty special. The other one was White Hart Lane.
Yeah,
that was my team as a kid.
Would you have liked to play at the new White Hart Lane?
That is a pretty special stadium. In fact, I'm going there next Thursday to watch the West Ham game. Take my dad up. My dad's still a Spurs fan, so I'm going to take my dad up and watch that.
Yeah,
I'll go on. Most difficult player you played against?
I think when I was a right winger, it would have been Stuart Pearce.
Yeah.
Because he scared the crap out of me. I was only a kid back then, and my second ever game for Saints was against Forest, and oh my God, I think I got subbed after about 50 minutes because I didn't get a kick of the ball, because all I got was kicks from Stuart the whole game. And I think when I moved inside and started coming up against kind of centre backs a bit more often, Des Walker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll never beat Des
Sheffield
Walker.
Wednesday.
Sheffield Wednesday, Notts Forest, yeah. Yeah, Des was really good, really quick, read the game pretty well, and I found it hard to get the better of him.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the last question is a little bit cheeky, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So you tell me to off if you want. I don't mind whatsoever. good story to tell, actually. Is there anyone in your phone book you reckon would be keen or willing to come on World Class Stamp podcast?
Probably.
Okay.
There you go.
Great. That's it.
We were expecting a no for a laugh, weren't we?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
He's going to
Fuck off, mate.
Yeah, that's the one.
Go on in. Yeah.
No, I'm sure I can find you someone. One of my old teammates who's probably happy to come on.
Now you mentioned,
You got anyone in particular you were thinking about?
well, we've been chatting to Klaus, so I think he's keen, but, anyone really.
I'll put a word in with you with Klaus. Yeah, that's fine. James Beattie.
That'd be
James
great.
Beattie.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Excellent.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
cool.
Well, just want to be respectful of your time.
No problem.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
Enjoyed it.
Well, that's the end of today's episode. We'd like to thank all the listeners and for Matt for giving us his time today. If you like what you heard, please join us on our Rumble exclusive, where Matt Le Tissier will be giving us his views on football and football-related content. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and remember, have a world-class weekend.